Hello everybody, Shadefire here, and welcome to another What's Update with Subnautica. This is not a fairly large update, but this is the Bones update, which adds some more stuff to the Lost River, including a new life form, and it changes up two of the existing life forms to kind of function a little better or look a little better. Specifically the Reefback, which now more accurately reflects its name, as well as the Mesmer, which now actually has a better ability to mesmerize you. So the Reefback should be easy to find, because you can hear them already. And there are a pod of them hanging out near my base. Which is interesting, because as far as I know, they generally only spawn around the grassy plateau, and then just kind of stay there and spin in a circle. But I've got about 3 of them over here by the island. In fact, the island should be just in front of me. But we're in the sparse reef here, which is why it's so green. And there's the island on the left. And they're just hanging out here, which makes more sense than them just kind of staying in that one area. But, as you might expect, the Reefback now has a reef upon its back. And each one is supposed to be different, different randomly generated plants on it. So they're not all just one template. Apparently they're also different sizes now. They can come in, small and large and whatnot. And perhaps even massive, like one of the concept arts for it. Well, this one has a tiger plant, so that thing might start shooting at me. But yeah, they've actually got a proper reef on their back, and you'll even see little clouds of fish hanging around said reef. So that's pretty neat. It actually kind of makes them look like they have a purpose now. Also, you can crack open these barnacles, which will have various kinds of ore in them. Unfortunately, the plants still freak out quite a bit, including these new plants, these spotted reeds, which were added, but don't seem to do anything yet. They don't even have a description yet. But yeah, I think that's pretty cool. Reefbacks really don't have that much of a purpose in the game. You can't really do anything with them, but at least now you can get some resources off of them. You think that's like a super refreshing thing when you break these off, like popping a big old pimple? Anyhow, that's the Reefback. The Mesmer we can actually probably find in the Lost River, as they do spawn down there now. But, oh yeah, the other thing is the pipes. So these have been in the game pretty much since launch, the pipes that you're supposed to be able to use to pump air, but they were basically just a solid colored tube and didn't actually have art for them, and I believe they were actually removed in one of the last few updates. But now, they also have this air pump, so you release this, and then you can attach pipes to the pump, and it will pump air down, and then you can, refill your air tanks without having to go up to the surface. Of course, you need quite a few of these to actually be useful, because this is about as far as one pipe will go. Also, it's really hard to make them in a straight line, so they always end up being this wonky zigzag. In addition to being able to pump air from the surface, you can also attach a pump to your base. Well, not really attached, there's a different kind of pump you build on your base, and then, if you build a base deep water, you can then pump air down into the caverns and stuff instead of having to go all the way down from the surface. And now, they have said that they're going to add air management as part of the base thing. Probably not like, micromanaging how much oxygen you have, but rather, you build plants in your base and then it produces air, and then you can presumably pump that air from the surface to your base instead of having to use plants. But I don't know if they're ever actually going to integrate that stuff, because that seems like too much work for them. But you just hang out by these and you refill your air, which is pretty much how they've always worked, but they're just a little less janky now. And, there was no air pump before, so before you just had a floating pipe sticking out of the water that connected to the rest of your pipes. Now it makes a little bit more sense. And that's pretty much all we have to see up here. Now we have to head all the way back down to the Lost River to see the rest of it. So the Lost River has been fleshed out. Specifically the Bonefield area has gotten some attention, and there's actually wildlife there now. Because before, pretty much only the Ghost Tree Cove had any actual life in it. The rest was a fairly barren expanse of brine and tree roots. But yeah, there's actually life forms down there, including a new one, the river prowler, which we will see, of course. So let's head down there, and we'll skip the transition so you don't have to see the painful load-in, which still has not improved at all. Alright, here we are. So there isn't actually... Nope. Rip fish. Also, for some reason, when you take damage in the sub, it now shows blood splatters, the normal, out-of-sub damage thing, which I think is a bug. But anyway, they haven't significantly changed too much in here aside from the bone room. They've added more details here and there, and there's more brine falls that actually function now, instead of just being weird cutoffs. But there's still a lot of empty space. Like, this stuff is all basically just the default set dressing for this area, but no actual filled out detail. Like, so again, this is not really a super large update. However, there is a new sea base down here. And not just any sea base, because this is the first one that is not built by human survivors. Specifically the survivors from the Degassi, who have built all the other sea bases we saw. This is instead a Precursor sea base by the Precursor race that was active on this planet over 1,000 years ago. So here's the bone room. You can see there's a lot more detail and a lot more life down here now. And we should see the new creature in here fairly soon. You know what I never registered? This skeleton doesn't really make sense, because the ribs are all facing upward as though it died on its back, but the head is facing downward as though it died on its stomach. So unless its death throes were like neck-snappingly violent, it doesn't actually make sense for it to be lined up like this. But of course, it does look aesthetically pleasing, and that's probably the reason it looks like that. But you can see it's all overgrown now and filled out. Also, another change is this brine river is now actually dangerous, as it is acidic, so you don't want to swim down there.
Welcome aboard, Captain.
But we should be able to find the new life form kicking around here, as well as a mesmer. Yep, there's one. So this is the river prowler, previously known as the spine eel when it was still in development, which is, I guess, the primary predator of this area, kind of similar to the stalkers in the kelp forest and the bone sharks in a lot of other places. They're also quite a bit smaller, I think, than they used to be when they were in development, but yeah, they're pretty neat. They're mostly squishy juice and spine in the back, and then they have a solid head and weird little grabby tentacles. Unfortunately, they seem to get stuck on the bones themselves a lot, and their tail kind of freaks out. See if we can get a scan off one of these guys. Don't mind me, just trying to get a scan. No need to freak out. He's getting all twisted up. So yeah, they definitely need some more work before they are considered complete. Unless becoming all accordion-like is part of their design. Oh, let's not stay still. Fast predator, powerful jaws, vulnerable torso, yeah, spinal column and cartilage, so there's not really much substance to them, aside from the head. Alright, so that is the new creature, and there's a mesmer.
Primary directive to swim closer to predators to full creature. Swim closer. Swim closer now. It looks so friendly. Do not resist.
So this PDA stuff with the mesmer was actually in the last update, but because it's so easy, or it was so easy to break away from a mesmer, it never really worked, but it's actually much harder to pull away. Like, I'm pulling my mouse to the right, and there we go. But yeah, so they actually kind of can mesmerize you now, instead of just being a pretty nuisance like they were before. See if I can get him to trigger it again. Hello? Mesmer?
It is your primary directive. Caution. Mild dehydration detected. Fluid intake.
But yeah, so that's the change to the Mesmer, making them an actual, well, I wouldn't say an actual threat, but a slightly more dangerous threat than they were before. Okay, so that's that out of the way, now that we've seen all the creatures. So let's go check out the sea base, and then I guess that'll be it. There isn't really that much else. The reinforced dive suit and the still suit got new models, but since you're in first person, you can't see those anyway. And maybe that's more of a change that reflects in the someday multiplayer, which may or may never happen. So from here we need to go towards the previous location of the Ghost Tree Cove, which I guess is not called that now because the whole area is the Ghost Tree Forest. I don't think this is the right way. I think this leads out to the Blood Kelp. There's a brain squid. But yeah, like these little glowing tree things weren't here before. I remember that. However, these lily pad things were. Yeah, this just leads up and out. So that's not the way we want to go. We want to find the junction room, which splits off to the bone field, the tree cove, and the sea base. It should be just a big tunnel on the side here somewhere. Maybe I went the wrong way. I think it might actually be off in this direction. Oh, some of the bones are not rendering in now. Yeah, I think it's this way. Past the smaller set of bones, which don't have a skull attached to them. So there's the tree over there, and I believe the facility is over here on our right. Yeah, that looks like a new facility. So let's go check out this tree, because I think it has been upgraded a little bit from the last update.
Emergency. Severe dehydration detected.
Probably take care of that.
Intake immediately.
Ooh, except I did not bring any fluid with me like I had originally planned to. So I guess we're gonna have to do without. So this looks different, right?
Safe depth.
I don't remember the pink tips from last time we were here. Or the bubble orb. Was that there last time? Alright, well let's quickly check out this base before I dehydrate to death. Because there isn't really anything that I could get fluid from down here. Aside from maybe eating some spinefish that hang out around the bone field. So, this is the Precursor secondary, I think it's Biohazard Research Facility? Or Bioform Research Facility. But yeah, this is a research base that was originally suspended from the walls and ceiling. But at one point they had a sea dragon Leviathan contained in here, and it broke out and destroyed the facility. Unfortunately, we can't actually go in here yet because the entrances, like this one here, are blocked and there's nothing inside if you clip into it. which is unfortunate because I thought when they added this they might have actually, added it and not just added a big chunk of board cube looking art. Also, there's a sea dragon you can hear off in the distance, but that's just because this borders onto the inactive lava zone. But yeah, it's just a, fancy looking cube thing. And this will, of course, play a part in the story, along with all the other Precursor facilities, where you'll have to come here before you can head to the Sea Dragon Emperor, or not Sea Dragon, just Sea Emperor facility. I believe we'll... Oh, get out of here, Warper. We'll actually need to use the orange artifact, which was added in the last update, and is found in the other abandoned sea base from the Degassi survivors. You'll actually have to use this as some sort of key to open up a door, and I'm not sure if that's at this facility or the primary facility. But that's really all it is right now. And that's pretty much it for the Bones update. It's pretty small, but, not every update can be a big old significant new biome or anything. And I'm glad this game is getting monthly updates still. Alright, I'm gonna die here, and I'll have to come back and retrieve my Seamoth, but that's okay. Anyhow, I've been Shadefire. This is Subnautica, and I hope you'll join me for the next update. Until then, you folks all take care.